everyone, my name's Liz, the Bake That Sews. This is going to be a really quick, hopefully quick video. A couple of people commented on my last video that they'd like to know how to make the headbands, so I thought I'd film myself making one today because I'm in the process of making another dress and I've got a bit of scrap fabric left, so I'm going to make a headband. I can't find the blog tutorials that I followed to make this originally, but hopefully when I upload this vlog I'll have been able to find the link and I'll link them down below. But I read quite a few tutorials before I made the headbands. So the headbands I showed in my last video was just a sewing sort of catch up. The last headbands that I showed I didn't add the buttons, but this tutorial I'll show you how to add the buttons because the people that messaged me were interested in making them for other NHS workers or people that work in hospitals that have to wear the face masks. So I'm going to show you what I've done so far and I'll take you through each step and hopefully it will be helpful for you. So I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, so here I've got two templates that I've cut out. I quite like having templates, quite easy to just measure on the fabric yourself, but I quite like having a template to come back to. So you need two, one for fabric 1, or it's called fabric 1, and one for fabric 2. So the measurements for the first piece of fabric is 37 centimetres, or it's 14.5 inches, and I'll put all of these measurements down below for you. And that's the length, and then the width is 15 centimetres or 6 inches. Now the blog that I followed had slightly smaller measurements, and I found the first one that I made, when I tried to put it on my head, it was really tight. So I've just added a little bit extra. And then the second one, I've already started cutting it out. The second one, fabric 2, is much thinner. So it is 28 centimetres or 11 inches across, and then 6 centimetres or 2.5 inches down. And again, I'll put all these measurements down below in the sort of description box. And I've just used a scrap piece of fabric. You don't need a huge amount of fabric at all. And then the final thing that you need is some elastic. Now I think it's 17 centimetres of elastic, just thin elastic. So yeah, when I come to inserting the elastic later, I'll show you and I'll confirm what those measurements are. So the next job is cutting out. So I'll cut it out. I won't film that part because it's not very exciting. And then I'll show you what the next part of the making process is.
Okay, I'm back. I've cut them out. So I've got my two pieces of fabric ready to go, and the next job is pressing them right sides together so that it's easier to put it through the machine. So I'm going to go off and do that, and then I'll show you that I've pressed them right sides together so that I can do a long stitch to get the long ends of the fabric together, and then I'll show you the next bit.
Before I press the right sides together, I just meant to say that I like to overlock the short edges. That will help make everything nice and neat for later. So I'm just going to fold the long edges so that the right sides are together. It's quite hard to do it one-handed. And then just using my iron, I'm just going to press it and it just makes it a bit neater. Excuse the washing in the background. I need to put the washing away, not make headbands. And then this one, I'm going to do exactly the same. Push the right sides together. It just makes things neater when you're stitching. And it just means that everything's a bit more accurate. So I have pressed those together, and the next job is stitching along here and stitching along here. Okay, so I've stitched along the long edge there and I've stitched along the long edge there. The next job is turning them through. So I've got my prim loop turners. So I'm going to turn them through and then I'm going to press them again so that this is nice and neat again. And then the elastic I've cut. So I've cut 17 centimetres, it was 17 centimetres, and this is just 10 millimetre thick elastic. It's got a nice stretch to it. And that we're going to use for the smaller piece of fabric, but it'll become clear a little bit later. So I've turned them the right way around, and I'm just going to press so that this seam is nice and neat and this seam is nice and neat. It just helps the overall look. When the headband is finished, it just means that it looks a lot neater. Okay, so the next job is feeding this elastic through the thin piece of fabric that you've now got turned right sides out. So obviously this elastic is going to be shorter than the piece of fabric, so I've just attached a safety pin. I'm going to feed it through, but then I also need to make sure that I keep hold of this end at this end to make sure that it doesn't go all the way through. And then what we're going to do is stitch the elastic at this end and this end in place, and I'll show you when I've done that, so hopefully it will make a lot more sense.
Okay, so I am just literally about to feed this elastic through using the safety pin. I find this quite therapeutic actually, it's quite fun. So I put the safety pin in and then I bunch the fabric up and then hold the pin and then pull. It's quite quick. I don't always sit with a tape measure around my neck. I should take it off really. But I've just been using it to make sure that everything's really accurate. So nearly through. So it's all the way through now to the end, and I've kept hold of it at this end. So what the next job is stitching this elastic to this end, and then this elastic to this end, and then what you end up with is a bunched up bit of fabric. Lola's just in the background. So yeah, I'm gonna go and do that now, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I'm back, I've done that. So I've literally stitched a row of stitching, straight stitch along there. Don't know if you can see that, I'm sat by my window so it's quite bright. And then I've stitched another row of stitching along here. So you've ended up with your thin piece of fabric with the elastic in, and it sort of creates this bunched up effect, and that's going to go round here to hold the headband in place. So the next bit is going to transform it into your headband. So you've got the longer, thicker piece of fabric, and then we've got this, and we're going to literally put it in the middle, like so. So it's in the middle of your thicker piece of fabric, and you're just going to fold it. So fold one corner over and then fold another corner over, and then you end up with this little sandwich with your elastic fabric, or your elasticated piece of fabric. It's a bit fiddly, this fabric's a bit slippy. So that ends up sort of sandwiched in between, and that's what it ends up looking like. And then you can pin it or use a clip, because you're going to stitch that in a second, and then you do the same on the other side. So I like to sort of move all of that bunched up fabric, it makes it a bit easier, and you're going to do the same. This is the reason why I overlock these edges, because on the finished one, although it's tucked in and you can't see any raw edges, if you open it up you can, that's what it looks like, and I just didn't want any fabric fraying, especially with this linen version. So I'm going to go and stitch that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Hi, I'm back. I've moved away from the window because I was a bit worried about it being really bright. But anyway, I've folded it over. Here we go. So I've got my bit of elastic fabric in between. I've just done a straight stitch along there, and then I've done the same on the other side. And then this is the magic. So you turn, so that's what it looks like at the moment. Then you turn it through and pull. Turn it through and pull, and then you end up with a finished headband. So I'll just try it on, check that it fits. I'm going to wear this with a indigo that I've made, well, in the process of making, and there you go. So the bit that you need to do next, if you want it, sorry I can't get my glasses on now, the bit that you want to do, I really like that, if you want to make it for NHS workers, is then you get some buttons, and you stitch one button here, sort of about 2.5 inches up, and then the same on the other side on the fatter, thicker piece of fabric, so about 2.5 inches up about here, and you just stitch 2 buttons, and then they can wear it, and the mask hooks onto the buttons. I'll show you one that I've made with the buttons. Okay, so in the previous video I mentioned my mum and my sister both work in the NHS, they're both nurses, so I've made a batch of these and I'm sending them up to them. So I used this really fun fabric, I thought it was quite nice. So this is the one with the buttons. So you literally just stitch a button on that side and then the same on that side, so that when they wear it, excuse my hair, I'm not going to tuck it under because I want you to be able to see the buttons, but the buttons sit on each side so that they hook the mask onto there, and hopefully it will help them. I'll put all the information down below. I really like watching people make things when I'm learning to do something new, so I hope this has been helpful. I've never done a tutorial before, so I'm sorry if it's rubbish, but hopefully that's helped some of you. Like I said, I'll link everything below. I'll put all the measurements and what you need at the beginning of the video as well, so that you can be prepared. But I've made loads of these now, and I think moving forward I'm going to make matching headbands. My hair's an absolute mess now, but I think I'm going to make matching headbands for quite a lot of my stuff. I didn't say at the beginning of the video because it's not really a makes video, but I'm wearing an indigo in this lovely fun fabric with pockets, and I did the exposed ruffle bit and the exposed ruffle with the fluted sleeves, and I love the indigo. I've made probably about 10. I absolutely love it, and it's perfect for today because it's quite warm. Anyway, I hope you're all having a lovely Easter if you celebrate, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye!